afternoon and welcome to the GoPlan 101 webinar for May of 2020, 20 minutes to a healthier, wealthier you. Today's topic is singles, where we're going to talk about the unique things that single people should be looking at when it comes to financial planning and overall financial wellness. Single actually stands for stress is now gone, life is easier. Single does mean different things to different people, so we'll talk a little bit about what it means. And first thing that pops to most people's minds is someone who's never been married, but to a lot of other people, it's someone who is single, is not married, but does have a partner. That could be you. You're a single parent, and you either have sole custody or you share custody. And of course, it could be a divorced person, and it also could be a widowed person. And people who are widowed often don't consider themselves as single, but for the purposes of today, I think we need to think that way. Believe it or not, singles, and if we include widows and widowers, make up about half of the adult population in the United States today. Many people are surprised when they hear that. I think I was surprised when I heard it. And it's not including kids, it's looking at the adult population. So we find that financial planning can be both simpler in some ways and harder in some ways. Obviously, one person making decisions is oftentimes an easier thing to do, but having no one to share and bounce ideas off of who's directly affected by those decisions, obviously that can make it more difficult. Singles are twice as likely to feel financially insecure. Believe it or not, you may need up to 80% of a married couple's budget to pay your own bills. And this statistic here reflects the other one. 43% of married couples consider themselves financially secure, which isn't a great number, but that's compared to only 29% of singles. So there's a lot of stress out there, which is why one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar. And if we talk about women who are unmarried, they can actually pay as much as $1 million more over the course of their lifetime than their married counterparts for things like healthcare, taxes, and more things that we're going to see in a little bit. If we take a look at income, budget, and emergency fund, these are things that we thought we should start with. Singles should take a look at these things. And on average, we know that singles make actually less money than their married peers. And on average, it's about $8,000 a year less. They also pay more on a wide variety of costs, which we just said, from housing to healthcare to cell phone plans. I mean, if you get your healthcare through work, you know that you don't get, if it's a couple, it's not half the price. When you add family, it doesn't go up by double. So there is a bit of a penalty there, or an imbalance. So for singles, we find that it's even more important that you have things like what we see here. And Jim's going to kind of show us on a resource that we're trying to provide to you through GoPlan 101. So there's the budget worksheet. Jim, you pulled that up through GoPlan, right?
Yeah, I think we all have heard this as like Financial Planning 101, but if you don't already have one, you probably should. It can be in all kinds of forms. You're gonna see on the slides here, GoPlan 101 is our financial planning tool that we use, that some of you already have access to. It is something that we can provide as part of our financial wellness package. It has all kinds of information. This is a downloadable PDF, but it starts here. There are many different versions of doing budgeting. A lot of them are electronic. You can literally go in and do some sort of budget right online. You've probably done it yourself. Many of you already have connected with your bank. You got to start someplace. If you don't have someplace to go to GoPlan 101, set yourself up under the financial planning tool, go to the budget, and then what this allows you to do, it allows you to track how you spend money. It sounds so simple. Most people don't do it. And the problem you run into is you kind of, after a while, you sort of throw your hands up in the air and say, well, it's somewhere around here. But the bottom line, that's not going to work. So you really want to push yourself to trying to be a little more disciplined when it comes to simple things like this.
Again, very important for singles. Keep debt under control, maintain a good credit score. According to our research, is paying your bills on time is really the most important to build and maintain a good credit. Keeping your credit card balances low and keeping a balance that's below 30% of available credit will definitely do a lot to boost your credit score, and keeping higher balances is obviously going to reduce it. Also, some credit experts recommend that you establish credit as soon as you can and you use your credit cards consistently, and most importantly, use them responsibly, only apply for credit you really need. So, that doesn't necessarily mesh with establishing credit as soon as you can. But don't just go out there and get open 5 credit cards if you only need to have 1 or 2. And try to keep a few months between hard inquiries, because those take a hit on your credit score, which obviously leads to paying higher rates on a lot of things. And then review your credit reports annually, which are available through multiple websites. And Jim, you're going to take us in on GoPlan, and I think we have a couple of resources.
If you come to the GoPlan site and you go over here to mortgages, student loans, credit card debt, and so on, you can go and you sort of click. We drill down is what we call it here. And a lot of people are looking for help. It's certainly one thing to have your credit all put together in a nice, it works for you. But in some situations, people need to get help in this area. If you go into this area and you want to talk to somebody to get your credit fixed, if you've got a credit issue, we're going to refer you to a company called Cambridge Credit Consulting. It's a nonprofit organization where if you're having difficulty in this area, these are the folks that we refer people to say, hey, go talk to these people. You come from our site, you're going to get a free intro to your situation. They're going to give you a free consultation. So what they're going to do is help people try to work a monthly payment you can live with, but they also work on reducing interest rates over time, or maybe even on day one. I often get this question, how I want to start saving money. I have $400 a month to save. Where should I put it? Well, I find out that there's a credit card with a $5,000, amount on it at 18%. The first thing you should do is get out of those high credit cards.
We've done individual webinars on almost all of these topics that we're talking about. So we've done webinars on credit and debt. We've done them on some of these other topics. So feel free to go in there and pull up the old webinars if you think they might be helpful. Now we're going to talk a little bit about being married versus being single and the impact it might have on your income tax. Marriage bonuses, they occur when 2 individuals with disparate incomes marry, and they can be as high as 20% of a couple's income. On the bonus side, the marriage penalty is what people are probably more familiar with hearing. When 2 individuals with equal incomes marry, that's when you often see a marriage penalty. So it's true for both high income and low income, as long as those 2 incomes are equivalent or close to being equivalent. And they can be as high as 12% of your the joint income. So let's just look at an example of a marriage bonus, or how you lose it if you were to get divorced. So we looked at a 2019 married sole breadwinner who earned $150,000 and filed jointly was a 22% tax bracket. If that same person was divorced and filed single, and nothing else changed, he or she would move to a higher bracket, and that higher tax rate would apply to the portion. Obviously, it's to the portion of the income that's in the higher tax bracket. That's how our tax brackets work. They're progressive, not on all the way back to $1. And research shows us that penalties and bonuses don't really have much of an effect on people's decision to get married or not get married, but they can impact, and they do impact, how much each spouse works after they get married. And we also have a section, if you need help with taxes, Jim, you were going to show them one of the ways they can get help with taxes, right? Through the GoPlan website.
By the way, GoPlan 101, there's a free site. So you can help yourself to these things on here. And if you find budget planning and taxes, you can actually get into a situation where you can visit one of the referrals that we make is a company called Circle CPA. Circle CPA, taxes are one of those things in life. Fortunately, they've been deferred so far for this year for maybe the wrong reasons, but nonetheless, if you need help with your taxes, sometimes you need to talk to a CPA or an accountant if you don't already have one, or maybe you want to get a second opinion, or maybe you want to find a better way of doing your taxes altogether. Check out Circle CPA through GoPlan. Tell them you came from here. And one of the things I love about these guys is that they're very high touch for what they are, but I love their pay structure because you're going to pay them what they're worth. So here's an opportunity to say, hey, look, this is what you're worth to me. are you willing to do my tax return for this? So this is an unusual way of approaching a relationship that we've seen in the accounting community, the most unusual I've seen. But for someone who's helping you out, this gives you an opportunity to get started, kind of no cost kind of situation to see whether or not you need additional tax support based on what you're doing today.
We're going to talk a little bit about retirement savings, and obviously retirement savings is important for everyone, even more so for singles, because you're all you got, right? So first thing is it should be automated. If it never hits your bank account, you can't spend it. And if you have a retirement plan at work, which most people on this call, I think do through Clark Greenleaf, make sure you fund it, participate. It's almost everybody's auto enroll these days. Many are auto escalate. Don't, if you don't see it, you can't spend it. You usually don't miss it. It's typically pre-tax. There's usually some kind of a match involved. So please take advantage of that. And then, we often see people that have multiple retirement accounts floating over multiple past employers. They don't really keep track of them. They don't keep on top of them. So it's very hard for them to start to get an idea of what my retirement savings is going to equal in terms of a retirement income when I go to retire. It's just a number on a piece of paper if they even know where that is. So consolidate. It helps you feel organized. It helps you get organized. And, we also have something here as far as, if you're already, people often think, well, I can't afford to do it. And what we tried to show here is, even if you did something as little as $25 a week, whether this is, you're already funding your retirement plan or you want to do something outside of that, $25 a week over the course of 10 years grows to, you see that $16,470. If, the longer you have to do this, the bigger the dollar amount is at the end. I mean, most people can afford $25 a week, but you see what the numbers grow to over, in a 25-year period. $25 a week equals $69,000, and that's only assuming a 4 weeks in a month and a rate of return of 6% compounded. So theoretically, over 25 years, you'll get a rate better than 6%. But even if you don't, that's not that's not a small number.
In this area of investing, if you had a zero on there, and it's $250 a week, that number, you had a zero on the other side too. The math's the same.
Sure.
Pretty significant number to think about that you can put aside, and the sooner the better, as Jim was saying. And if you go to the GoPlan site, you'll see a section on investing, and you may just need help. And we have a financial coach. It could be Jim or myself that you could call and just talk to about, okay, what do I do? Think about what's going on in today's economy and the stock markets and bond markets and interest rates. It's about as difficult as it comes right here when it comes to investing. And sometimes you just want to talk to somebody about getting some information, some education, maybe some advice, and maybe how to work your accounts better than you're doing right now. One of the common things we see is if somebody has a lot of time in front of them before retirement, generally in times like these, they are much too conservative. And just because you want to be safe right now doesn't necessarily mean that's the right investment decision you should be making for the next 20 years. So if you're having difficulty here, just reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you.
Retirement income and Social Security. I mean, there are many different ways to look at this in our group of different groups of singles. A single person never married is going to rely for retirement income on their personal savings and investments, an employment pension if you're lucky enough to have one, and Social Security based on your personal earnings. And everyone should have an account with SSA.gov, the Social Security Administration. So I'll check their personal earnings record, make sure it's accurate, and you can get an idea of what your Social Security income will be when you get to retirement age. If you're divorced or separated, you're obviously going to still have the same considerations as the single person above. Plus, if you were part of a quadro or a qualified domestic relations order, then you would know that if you were most likely in a divorce. You were entitled to assets or income from through a quadro, an ex-spouse's pension and or retirement plan balance, and If you don't qualify for Social Security on your own record, you may qualify for Social Security on your ex-spouse's record if you were married for 10 years. If you're widowed, again, same considerations as single, plus there are Social Security survivor benefits. You get either, you don't get both. So if your benefit is higher than the survivor benefit, you'll just get your benefit. But if the survivor benefit is higher, you'll get that. Obviously, if your spouse had a pension or annuity.
The other thing you have to look for is things you may not consider because, hey, I'm single, I don't care. If something happens to me, why does it matter? Well, as Jim was saying before, there are a lot of singles which have beneficiaries that they do want to take care of. And you want to look at reasons for opting in or opting out of life insurance, either through work or getting it on your own. And here's some things to think about. Assets to pay for a funeral. If you've got debts out there that you want to repay so you can leave some money to somebody without the debt, that's always a good way to think about having life insurance to pay that off. Or if you owe some money to somebody else, you borrowed some money and you want to pay them back. Or there's a possible future need you might have. It's in other words, if you think there's an opportunity in the future that you're going to be doing something, you can always buy life insurance now because it's less expensive while you're younger, and when you can get it, you're typically healthier when you're younger as well. The Social Security is interesting from a disability standpoint. This is probably a big risk that most single people don't acknowledge, it being probably the highest potential risk you have is disability right now. Because Social Security says 1 out of 4 20-year-olds will become disabled for 90 days or more before they get to 67. There's not a lot coming, but there is something coming from Social Security. It's $1,200 a month, so it's something. But you should be looking at making sure you're getting the group long-term disability and the short-term disability to cover that loss of income that you might have in case you're disabled.
Let's take a look at Medicare. In Medicare, let's just understand, Medicare is an individual insurance. There is no family plan. And it's based on if you have a 10-year work history paying Medicare taxes, that equals free Part A Medicare. The premium is the same for married individuals paying for Parts B, C, and D. So again, there's one place where singles don't get penalized. If you're widowed, if you don't qualify for free Medicare based on your own work history, you can qualify based on your spouse's work history. That's important to know. And if you're divorced and you don't qualify based on your own work record, if you were married for at least 10 years, once you turn 65, you're eligible for free Medicare Part A through your former spouse, as long as he or she worked at least 10 years and paid Medicare taxes during that time. So that's important to know. So Medicare, that's not until age 65 though. So that's when it kicks in. And we have the whole webinar on that as well.
Yeah,
more resources in GoPlan.
But be careful though, for those, we have all kinds of folks on the call today, so all different age groups. So as you're approaching retirement, this is a very important decision to make, and it's probably, you would think it'd be easy, and it's not. So feel free to reach out and communicate with a Medicare professional. We offer them through GoPlan as well. And it is something that is somewhat cumbersome, and you kind of get one shot at it. So you got to work through that pretty carefully. Long-term care, I'll speak a little about long-term care right now. Generally, again, this is about you. It's about your long-term care. It's about taking care of yourself so you don't have to necessarily rely on immediate family, or maybe they can't help you in that particular time. And it's going to be used to pay for elder or home health care in the future. Long-term care generally happens post age 60, usually into retirement. And this is where Medicare does not pick up long-term care. And a lot of people think that it does, but it doesn't. And 70% of us are going to need some long-term care help, which is basically taking care of us so that we can live in our home or live the way we want to live with nursing help or custodial help or even in a nursing home. So this is a very expensive proposition out there in the future that we need to be aware of. So you really have to look at long-term care at some point in your life cycle here to determine whether or not it makes sense to fund it with insurance, or have enough to fund it out of pocket. Again, it's kind of a financial planning decision that GoPlan can help you out, or we can help you out with here.
Taking a quick look at housing considerations for aging singles, the decisions that you're going to have to make, which are the same as married couples, but they're different for singles, is do you want to age in place? Do you want to stay home and live out your years in your current home? Do you need to move in, or do you want to move in with a friend or relative? Maybe that helps share costs. Are you going to be looking into a senior community? And in most, other people, if they do, they want to know that does that include a nursing home attached to it, or would you have to go somewhere else if nursing care was required? But this is one of my favorite studies. The MIT AIDS Lab came out with this. They called it the 3 questions, and basically how people answered these 3 questions was what determined their satisfaction or how happy they were in retirement. It had nothing to do with finances. Basically, the question was, the 3 questions are, who will change my light bulbs? How will I get an ice cream cone? And who will I be able to eat lunch with? And the quality of those answers determined the quality of retirement and how happy people were when they were done working. So something to think about.
Great. I think the another area as we kind of look at what to do from a single perspective is, this goes for everybody again, but it's having an estate plan. A lot of people who don't have a will or the documents I'm going to go through here, you don't have a spouse or perhaps partner to rely on to help do the estate planning that's going to be needed to pass assets. Even though you think you don't have any assets, you probably have some, and they're going to go be decided by the state. So get a will. You need to make sure you have a will, but perhaps more importantly are the other things that come along with it, like a thing called a living will, which helps somebody make the right medical decision at the right time. You want to appoint that person to take care of you in a certain way. Springing power of attorney, that's a fun legal term. Making sure that somebody is given the authority to act on your behalf, whether it has to do with healthcare decisions, which is the next one, or what's called a durable power of attorney, which is also a POA. These are devices which say, hey, I can't make a financial decision or a management decision of myself, but I have appointed these people to take care of me before anything happens. Very important that this gets squared away, and you probably should have not just one person, you might even want to have several people in case. The other things to think about is there's going to be an executor, there may be a trustee if you have a trust document or a need for a trust, and you want to think about, okay, who's going to get this stuff and how's it going to go to them? So that's what estate planning is all about. There, you can go to GoPlan. There is, you can get documents. We have a couple of different providers on there. You can actually get legal documents, copies of legal documents. So look at what these documents look like to get a feel for it. You can certainly go to get legal advice and find the same kinds of things.
And just to add, Jim, what we were saying earlier is don't get these things done and then stick them in a drawer, right? Make sure people know. If you have an advocate who's going to speak on your behalf, make sure you tell them about it, right? You don't want to have it be a surprise or have someone not even know that document exists, right? So, whether those advocates are family members, for all those decisions we were just looking at. And then of course you have all the other decisions that maybe your family's not qualified to make for you or help you make or help your advocate, your family advocate make. And that would be people like your financial advisor, your CPA, and your attorney. It's important your family members know who they are.
I think the other part of that is kind of going to this next slide, which is you need to keep pretty good records, particularly if you're single and maybe you've got kids and they're doing their thing, but you've got to keep records. If something happened to you, or somebody wants to come help in some way, there are a couple different ways you can keep records. These are this is a laundry list that you should probably have someplace filed in some logical order that somebody could find. You can tell them where it is. We're also seeing what they call electronic vaults. Electronic vaults is where you can take this information and scan them and save them electronically in a safe, secure place. There are a number of different institutions that offer this. We offer it through GoPlan as well. But when it comes right down to it, you need to have some place to go to say, okay, here's where my stuff is. Follow these kinds of instructions, or here are the documents that give somebody an idea as to where things are and what to do about them.
Summing it up, there was a lot of ground we covered, but what we thought the highlights were is make sure you have an emergency fund. Review your credit and your debt, invest for retirement, automate it, set up an SSA.gov account and check on it. Review your insurance needs, choose advocates, POAs, executors, and don't keep them a secret. If you don't have create a will. If you don't have one, review it if you do. Make sure your beneficiaries are up to date on your retirement accounts and any other insurance policies, and keep organized records. And always, remember, use GoPlan101.com. Jim showed us a lot of useful resources that are available through that. You can always contact us for a free consultation. Remember to join us for our next webinar, Tales from the Crypto. Have a great day.